What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to learn how to create Markdown files, which are a great way to create formatted text files, for example, for your GitHub repositories, for your GitHub profile, for README files, and for a lot of different other use cases. So let us get right into it.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Now, Markdown files are basically used everywhere when it comes to programming, but you will find in particular a lot of them on GitHub, in repositories, on profiles, but also when you just download some software as a zip file, for example, you will oftentimes find a readme.md file in there, and the MD stands for Markdown. So when you go to a GitHub repository of a Python package, of a Vim plugin, of some software that is open source, and you scroll down here to the description, you will oftentimes see code snippets, how to install something, how to use something, and so on. Here, for example, I have my module Vidstream opened, and you can see we have headings, we have code snippets, and all of this is part of the readme.md file. And again, MD stands for Markdown, so we can click on that file and we can show it in the raw version, so not rendered. And you can see that this is the Markdown code if you want. So we have a hashtag indicating a heading, two hashtags indicating a heading 2, so a smaller heading. Then we have backticks indicating a code snippet, a Python code snippet, and so on. Whatever. But this is what we're going to learn about today, how to create such Markdown files, because they're very important whenever you publish a package, whenever you do something on GitHub, but also when you just want to provide some formatted text file that is easy to convert, because Markdown files can be rendered live. Like, for example, here in GitHub, they're just rendered onto the page, but you can also convert them to PDF. You can do a lot of things with Markdown, and this is a very valuable tool to have in your arsenal as a programmer. This brings us now to the next step. What are we going to use to create the Markdown files? It doesn't really matter. You can use whatever you want. You can also open up just a notepad on Windows and use it to create Markdown files. It doesn't require any fancy environments. In order to render it then to something, you need to use the respective environment. So for example, if you just write the Markdown file in a notepad and then you upload it to your GitHub repository, it's automatically going to be rendered by GitHub. If you want to see a live preview, you have to use a tool that allows you to use to show a live preview. For example, PyCharm has a Markdown plugin, VS Code has a Markdown plugin, Jupyter Lab, which I'm going to use in today's video, has a Markdown plugin. We also have some Markdown online tools. For example, StackEdit is one that I used in the past, where you can basically just start writing and then you write your Markdown code left, and then you get the rendered version on the right, and then you can save it and whatever. But I'm going to use the Jupyter Lab environment. You can use whatever you want. It's your decision. I'm going to use the Jupyter Lab environment. I also have a tutorial on Jupyter Lab, how to install it, how it works. If you want to use the same environment, you can follow along, and or you can follow that video, install Jupyter Lab, and then you can come back to this video. There's no difference what environment you use. It's just about the previewing and the rendering. So in Jupyter Lab, what we do is we just right click and create a new Markdown file, or from the launcher, if we have a launcher, you can just click down here, Markdown file, and this creates a Markdown file immediately. And if you want to see the preview, what you do is you right click and you say show Markdown preview, and then on the right you have the preview of your Markdown file. So if I just write here now hello world and I wait a little bit, you can see on the right I get hello world. So the first thing I want to show you, and I already said this, is headings. You have headings in Markdown files. For example, if I say heading here, it doesn't have to be heading. I can also write hello world. But the hashtag essentially creates the heading of type 1, so the largest heading. Now if I use 2, you will see that I get heading 2, which is smaller. If I use 3, I get an even smaller one. If I use 4, I get an even smaller one. And so on and so forth. And this works 6 times. So we have 6 different heading types. And if I do it a 7th time, this is not going to work. You can see also the syntax highlighting doesn't work anymore. So this is now not rendered as a heading. Those are headings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this one is just text, right? So this is the very basic thing. This is a very basic thing using headings. Another very basic thing is the type of text style that we have. For example, if I say hello world, this is a sentence, whatever, I can, for example, say I want to have this in bold letters. So what I can do is I can use 2 stars to surround this, and you can see now this is rendered to hello world. This is a sentence. Or if I just use one star, this is going to be italic, like that. And I think also, as far as I know, if I use underscores, this is also italic. I don't think, yeah, we can also use 2 underscores to make it bold. So this also works. This is an alternative. Also, one thing is that you can also use HTML code to style your text. So if I say, I think if I say B, it should also be bold. So we can also use basic HTML here instead of Markdown, but it's recommended, of course, to always use Markdown when there is a certain thing. Then when there is something simple to use in Markdown, don't go to HTML. You can just use Markdown. But in general, you can literally use HTML also like that. So you can say span and then style, and then you can say color red or something like that, and then span. So this also works. You can use HTML in Markdown, but we're going to focus for today's video obviously on the Markdown and not on the HTML features. If you want to do a hard line break, you can also use BR. If you want to, another way to do a line break is, first of all, of course, you can do a line break like this, but then you have this gap. So this is a hard break. If you want to have a soft break, so if you want to have a couple of lines separated but not really. Very good description of what a soft break is. So if you do it like that, you don't get the line breaks. And if you do it like that, you get hard breaks. So you get actually free lines. You actually get full lines in between, and you might not want to have that. So what you can do in Markdown to have so-called soft breaks is you can just add 2 spaces at the end of the line. So if I'm here now, I add space, space, and here also space, space, and this creates a soft break. And then here I have a hard break again, and then I can continue with more text. So this is kind of simple. Another thing that's quite useful, we're not gonna go through the basics here because there's no reason to talk too much about them. Another thing that you can do is you can add links. So I can say, for example, here, this is a link in square brackets, and then in parentheses here, I'm gonna just type HTTPS neural9.com, for example. And now you can see on the right side, this is rendered to this is a link. If I click on it, it opens up neural9.com. And I can also do this indirectly, so with a reference. So I can say, for example, this is a link, and then I can pass here, instead of parentheses, I can use square brackets as well. And I can say my reference or whatever I want to call it. You can call this ABC as well. And then down here, we're going to say my reference and colon. And then I'm going to add here HTTPS neural9.com. And you can see same result. Just that I can use this, I can have this reference, and then I can put the reference somewhere else. I think I should even be able to use this multiple times. So another link, but same reference. This should also work, I think. Yeah, there you go. So this is how you do that. Another thing that might be interesting is to add comments. How do we add comments to Markdown files? Not really something that you need to do, because at the end of the day, a Markdown file is not code. It's just, you know, it's already more or less a comment. But if for some reason you want to just, for you as a developer, you want to add a comment, what you can do is you can say square bracket, comment, square bracket, and then colon, angle brackets, and then I think it was like that. This is my comment, like this. So you can see no text is in the final Markdown file. You can also do it like that. You can say square brackets // and then angle brackets. Don't forget the colon, angle brackets. This is also a comment, like that. And then this is also not part of the Markdown file. So this is how you do a comment. You won't need comments too often, again, because this is a text file at the end and not a code. Even if it includes code, but you don't need really comments unless you're preparing for a video or unless you want to add a to-do, you know, don't forget to add this section here or whatever. This can make sense, but oftentimes you're not going to really need comments. Now, if you want to embed here, or if you want to link to an image and you also want to display that image and not just link to it, what you can do is you can do basically the same thing. You can say my image, for example, and here now you pass the URL. I'm going to use the Neural 9 logo, so let me just copy here the link from my website. And in this case, what happens is when I click on it, you can see the logo, but if I add now an exclamation mark at the beginning of the line, so if I do that, the image is going to be rendered into the Markdown file. So it's going to be loaded and also displayed inside of the Markdown file, not just something that I can click on to then see the image, but it's part of the Markdown file. And of course, I can also then convert this to a PDF, and then it's going to be part of the PDF and so on. So this is kind of useful. Same thing can be done obviously here as well. So if I say, for example, logo ref, and then my image logo ref, this of course also works. So that's not a problem. Another cool thing that we can do is we can quote. So we can add a block quote if we want to say, okay, some guy says or said something in the past that's important. What we can do is we can say, okay, once we can use the greater than symbol, the angle bracket, the closing angle bracket, and we can say once upon a time, I know a guy decided to subscribe to Neural 9. He never regretted it. Something like that. And then we can have more lines here. We can leave one empty, and then we can add here, for example, what do we want to do? We want to have this in italics, so I'm going to use stars, and then I'm going to say intelligent guy, and a backslash is because I want to have a minus symbol, and if I have a minus symbol without the backslash, this is going to create a list. At least I think so. No, in this case it doesn't create a list, but usually it creates a list. So if I have, this is, we can move on with the next point. If I have something like, hey, this is a list, so I can say 1, 2, 3. So using these dashes here creates a new list. And also I can use stars. So if I don't want to use dashes, I can use stars, but the list type doesn't really change. So it's still just a bunch of dots. However, I can also use a tab. I can indent, and then I can use another star and say, hey, what is up? And then we get different types of symbols, and I can do that a couple of times here. And we always get different symbols, right? So this works, and we can do the same thing also with numeric lists. So we can say, instead of just having these circles or these dots, what we can do is we can also say 1, and then hello world, what is up? And then we have a numbered list, and when we indent here and say 1, hey, what's up? This is gonna be ABC, and if I do it a couple of times here, hey, 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 you can see that we also get ABC, and a bunch of times it's gonna, I think it can come up with one more. Test. Okay, now it says I, and so on, and then I think it starts recycling it once again. Okay. So that's the basic idea, and of course we can also combine them, so I can add stars here, hey, test, whatever, and then I have these non-numeric lists. So this is what you can do here, quite simple to create just basic lists that can also be combined with numbered lists and not numbered lists, whatever. And probably the most important thing for you as a programmer is that you want to have code snippets. And code snippets are quite simple. You don't need to do a lot. You just use 3 backticks and then you provide the language. So for Python, you say Python. For Java, you say Java. I think for C++, you say CPP. For C, you say C. For Bash, I think you say SH. So you have the different programming languages. You can Google what the respective Markdown identifier is. But if you want to have Python code, you can just say Python. You need to close also with 3 backticks, and in between you can write your Python code like this. and then it's going to be with syntax highlighting, at least on GitHub, and depending, of course, on your renderer, because if you use PyCharm, for example, Python is going to have syntax highlighting in a preview, but C++, for example, is not going to have it. So this is what you can do. You can also change this to Java, and then you won't get the same syntax highlighting. But if I say system out println, I mean, it doesn't really do syntax highlighting, but at least the string is highlighted like that. Or we can go CPP, and I can do something like include IO stream using namespace std int main, and then cout hello world return 0. You can see that this works. This produces syntax highlighting. So this is a very important thing, because usually what you want to do is you want to have your packages on GitHub, you want to describe them, you want to show some code samples, and you want to also have something like what is the code to install this. For example, if you just want to have code without any syntax highlighting, you can just use backticks without an identifier, and then something like pip install vidstream, for example. And then you get it like this. Or you can also use, if you want to have just command line comments, at least bash comments, you can do sh, and you can say curl https neural9.com, for example. Come on. And then curl is going to be highlighted here as well. So this is what you can do. Now let's get to a bunch of more, I wouldn't necessarily call them advanced, but they're not the most basic things. For example, we can also create tables. Tables in Markdown are quite simple. You use this pipe symbol here to separate the individual columns. So we say, for example, name, pipe, age, pipe, height, or something like that. And then we have these separators, so we use a bunch of dashes like this. And then we can start with a value. So Johnny or John is 15 years old. It has a height of 178 centimeters. Then we have, I don't know, Benjamin. Benjamin is 30 and is 180 tall, whatever. And you can see this creates a table here on the right in the Markdown file. So this is a very simple thing that we can do. Another thing that we can do is we can strike through text. So we can use two of these wave symbols to say hello world, for example. And now you can see that it has the strike through style. Also, we can use separators. We can just type dash, 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 and then we have a simple line separating sections. So we can use that to separate sections here. And then the last two things that I want to show you, I think they're kind of interesting. When you have a project, oftentimes you want to have milestones, for example, you know, how many stars or which version we have. So what you can do here is you can use the list, and you can use square brackets with a space in between to say now, I don't know, milestone 1. Now we can copy this here, and you can see that this creates a list of checkboxes, and I can add, instead of a space, an X in here, and you can see that a bunch of them are going to be checked and a bunch of them are not going to be checked. So I can do it also like this, even though it doesn't make sense to have milestone 6 before 4 and 5, but this works as well. And last but not least, what I want to show you is subscription and superscription. So if I have, for example, X, and I want to say X1 and X2, I can say sub1 sub like HTML and X sub2 sub like that. So this works, and I can also say X and then sub with P instead of B2, so X squared is equal to X times X, for example. So this also works, and this also works with LaTeX. Now, not every renderer is gonna be able to render it, but you can also say LaTeX and then in MD, and we can say inline. We can do it inline by saying $, and in between we can say, for example, phi to the power of 2 plus x equals 3. And then we have this rendered as a formula. And if I do the same thing here with $2, it's going to be in a separate line. So you can see that it doesn't do it inline, but it does it actually in display mode. So yeah, those are the basics of Markdown files. When it comes to GitHub, you also have some specific things that GitHub offers you. So if you use GitHub Markdown files, maybe I can make another video on that as well. Might be quite interesting, but GitHub offers you a lot of different things that you can also include, like scores or something like that. I've not really worked with it too much, but you have some special options in GitHub as far as I'm aware of. But this is how you do basic Markdown. You can use that in GitHub, you can use it everywhere. And I think that's a valuable tool to have in your arsenal as a programmer. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video and bye.